I want to say a little bit about myself, because some of you're meeting me for the very first time, so it's an introduction to who I am. My company is a Velocity Partnership, and as Kimberly said, it was sort of mid-2003 when we had a conversation about me becoming her business coach. And the work we've done over the years has really evolved and changed, as witnessed by the fact that now Kimberly is running the business of design and does these very powerful transformational workshops across North America, and is such an expert in being a designer, but also in how to run a really crackerjack business. But the third part of that wheel is the fact that she keeps sharing it with you and creating a community that we're working together, sort of cooperatively as opposed to as competitors. And that's really important, because any great industry grows together. It doesn't grow separate. So I work with business owners and business leaders who are a lot like Kimberly. They've hit a plateau and they want to take their business to the next level. And to be able to do that, they realize they need to refocus, sort of tighten their lens to where they're headed. They also need to make better choices. And maybe this is something that will resonate for you. Better choice in your business, maybe a better strategic choice, a better hiring choice, a better client choice. All of those things are important in terms of when we discern in the work I do about what's important for the client. And another element of this is about just developing your creative capacity. Because one of the pitfalls that you may have in your business is you think you need to do it all, or you think you're the only person who can do it, or you'll never be able to get the team on board that will be able to take those things off your plate that you hate to do. And it's important that you really know what that is and say no to some things in your business, so you can say yes to the things that you really love that make the biggest difference for your business and can be an expression of your creativity. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, but the woman who is just up here, whose name's all over this conference, is a testament that if you keep going back and learning and failing forward and failing quickly and learning from those failures, that eventually, look at the crackerjack team that put this together. I mean, there is a fabulous team that stands behind Kimberly that makes the difference, and that's what's available to people when they really take it on. So those are the areas that I work, and I love what I do. And I work in structural design also. So a lot of my work may look like I'm coming in with systems and structures, but at the back stage of it, and this is really what we're going to get to today, it is about your own confidence and your capability to own your power in your business relationship, and to be able to have important conversations with, whether it be clients, potential clients, and also the people that you work with. So today's conversation is about the word no. And I know this morning you talked a little bit about no and had some conversation about that. And we're going to go into that a little bit further. And the work that I'm going to be presenting to you today, I use it in my own business. I had the opportunity to do so this morning, which I'll share a little more later. And I did it when I was working corporately also. And so this is sort of a honing, a massaging of important conversations and perspectives of things to give you strategies to overcome and to have a brand new relationship to know, and also to be able to maybe take a look in the mirror and understand yourself a little bit more about why you might have a relationship to know the way you do. And I think when you warm up to this word, you'll see it's actually the access to yes, more yes, and it needs to be embraced. So it sounds rather trite, but in fact, we're going to have a big old conversation about no today, okay? So maybe some of you have had this experience when you see those two letters, no, you sort of recoil, you retract, your voice dissipates or maybe disappears, you have all these thoughts that flow through your head, you have a physical reaction, you might start to sweat a little bit, your breath might move from here to up here, you might step back. Why does that happen? And more importantly, how do you overcome that feeling? So where I want to start with you is actually around the meaning of no. What does no mean to you? Some of you may be able to just shout out some of your ideas about this, but some of you might want to just take a second and take some notes down about that. So to do that, I want actually to put you in a situation, and if it helps for you to close your eyes to sort of visualize this, Think about the last important conversation you had where you got a no from somebody and it was really important for you. Something was at stake and you heard a no back or you thought it was a no. What was your reaction to that? What did you make that no mean? The other thing I want you to reflect on is what's the feeling that comes over you? I already mentioned a couple things. Do you get sweaty in the palms? Do you get angry? Do you get suppressed? Yeah? Do you back off? Do you get small? Do you feel like suddenly you become this height? Do you have an experience of being like the third wheel, that your voice doesn't matter? What actually physically happens to you? Why is that important? Because when you acknowledge things and you actually speak them, it somehow takes the power away from the meaning. And identification and the part of being responsible for how you feel is really important. Because, Kimberly, how much do you love the word responsibility? She loves it now. The interesting thing is when I first started to work with Kimberly, and you shared this publicly, so I think I can share it. Kimberly didn't like the word responsibility. It wasn't because she wasn't a responsible person. It was because she had the wrong definition of responsibility. Her definition of responsibility was, it was my fault, and I goofed up, and I'm to blame, and I am ... on top of it. When really responsibility is just actually saying, look, I am responsible. I'm at the source of this. I'm going to take my power back and say, I caused this in some way. Not it's your fault. Very different way of positioning it. And guess what? If you're at cause of something, you also have the power then to transform it or to impact it. The minute you're not responsible for it, the minute you say it's not my responsibility, it's yours, guess what? I give all my power away to you. So I never want to give away responsibility, even when it's a really unpleasant thing, because I want to get to the root of how I can actually impact it in the future and take my learnings about how I need to be a different way to do it. So responsibility is a critical pillar to success and to dealing with this no. Because once you guys just made all that stuff up. Once you get responsible for that, you made it up. Your client or your potential client didn't say that to you. They may want to, and that's a whole different area we'll go to shortly, but they haven't said that to you yet. And you're already putting that into the conversation. It's like we're trying to have a conversation, and every time I keep bumping into this chair, and every time I don't acknowledge that the chair is there, and I keep going, but I can't get to you, because I keep trying to get to you through this chair, but I'm not acknowledging the chair is there, which is the meaning. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Like it's a physical construct. But when there's not a physical construct, something physical that keeps us apart, it's just something we make up. Unless you acknowledge you've got it, it'll always get in the way. So that first step is really important, that you guys acknowledge it and put your arms around all those feelings and go, oh, great. So I have felt like a failure, I felt rejected, and so has probably every other human being on this planet. That's the good news. The other good news is you guys are going to have a whole new access on how to impact this moving forward. So then there's the no. Here's the other powerful word. Yes. How does yes make you feel? Yay! Exactly. And it's not the way it's spelt. It's just something about yes that's very powerful for us. However, here's the other thing that's not spoken about with yes. How many of you actually know you say yes too frequently, too easily? It's the underbelly of yes. And in fact, and here's the thing about strategy, you know, there are a lot of strategic consultants out there who charge a lot of money for their time. And they make you think, what is this strategy conversation? Really all strategy is being very clear about what you're going to do and very clear about what you're not going to do. In other words, what you say, I'm going to do yes, what you say yes to, and then what you say no to in your business. And being very clear about that, and then having the discipline to follow through again and again and again. And so my role as a coach to any of my clients and to Kimberly is to remind her, she said yes to this, no to this, let's stay on track, because that was what you declared to be important for yourself in your business. And that's why that word, while on first glimpse looks like it's the winner, but Maybe not always. So there's a feeling that occurs between those two words, which is important to acknowledge. So really then, to get to yes, one needs to be really, really comfortable with no. And we need to create a new meaning. So the way we create a new meaning or a new context is to actually have some conversation about why the word no and why no is so important. I think the number one reason why no is important is because it actually, by seeking it out, it can help you avoid landmines. By actually listening for where there might be a no, you can understand deeper what that no means, and that the benefit is that you can avoid disaster or breakdowns later on. Because how many of you have known when you've been working with a client, your spidey senses have been tingling where you have felt a little bit like you should have been either authoritating a no or seeking a no from them, and then something blows up later in the project because you've just been gliding along. And you've sort of avoided some landmines, but then suddenly you hit one and it blows later on in the project. And you realize it wasn't about that moment. It was something from 6 weeks ago that just kept percolating and percolating, and you didn't take the time to really go deep into the conversation because you were scared of hearing no, or you were scared of what that conversation might turn into. Maybe ultimately rejection or being fired. When it doesn't have to go that way, because the irony is, guess what, 6 weeks later, when that landmine blows, you actually might get fired for all the wrong reasons. So that is one very important reason about embracing no. Also, having full freedom to say no gives you the opportunity to say yes to things and the things that matter to you most. And this is about strategy. So when you are really clear about the things that you need to be able to say no to, you can get to the yeses in your life. And where that's most important is where you take on too much in your business and maybe even stretch yourself out of your area of capability because you want to keep saying yes to a client when you should actually be saying no. On the flip side of that, with a client, there are things you actually need to hear from them to crystallize whether it's a no or not and just be okay with that. And so to be able to have that open, frank dialogue is so critical in the relationship. Another very important point of no. So something was said earlier about, you've got this big idea, this big vision, and then you hear a no and you're disappointed. It's really important because all of you are seeking a yes because you're really committed to something. You've got a vision and something that's really important, right? And then that no feels so disappointing if you get it. Or even if you think you heard it,